In the Between, episode 3, and I'm lucky enough today to have with me a fellow from down in Canberra, Craig Allen. I met Craig last year. Craig, I think I met you at an OTLR or an outside the locker room training weekend. And what struck me with Craig when I first met you, mate, was you didn't say a lot. You were fairly quiet and fairly reserved, but when you did speak, it had a massive amount of impact. And so I was looking at you going, wow, this guy's really very wise individual. And then you got up and told your story towards the end of the weekend, and you mentioned that you were 12 months into your recovery, and I went, wow, it really astounded me, because I know where I was at my 12-month mark, and I definitely wasn't at an OTLR training session up in front, standing in front of people talking about my stuff, and I was just in awe of you at the time. So I'm really glad we can have this chat. You're someone that I actually really look up to. Craig has his own Facebook page, Inspired Mindset, that he has a heap of stuff on, and I just love that. It's very motivational and gets right into the nitty-gritty of all the things that are going on in people's lives. So, mate, Craig, welcome to In the Between. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Corey. Pleased to be here.
So, mate, the first question we ask everyone is, what's your very first memory? Where were you? Who was around you? And I guess what was influencing you at the time?
Oh, God. My first memory was, I was born in Melbourne, 1973. So my first memory was back in Melbourne, and I remember we lived in a block of units, and they had a communal pool. And I remember meeting another little kid, I think I was about 3 or 4. We wanted to make the pool like a beach. So we grabbed a whole heap of mud, sand, and we chucked it all in the pool. And I remember Dad getting home, and it wasn't too good. So that was my first memory of getting into trouble. So
So that's your first memory, being a bit mischievous.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hasn't changed much then, has it?
No. It just came down a bit.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned your dad then. So what was family life like back then that you remember when you were a young child, Craig?
Yeah, it was, I remember Dad went off. He was a truck driver. I had a sister, Charlene. She's about 5 years older than me. And I just remember Mum stayed at home, and it was just a normal family life, I guess what you consider normal. And we stayed down in Melbourne for about 5 years, and then we moved up to Canberra. So just my early memories of Melbourne, a bit. I just remember doing naughty stuff like running off, and we used to have a pet dog, and I used to climb up the window and go down to the local milk bar. And it was on I was on Sydney Road, which is a pretty busy road in Melbourne, and I used to go in there and get free little lollies with my dog Baron. So I was always getting up to mischievous little things back then. So
yeah, good on you. And what were Mum and Dad like, mate? Fairly supportive parents?
Yes, yeah. My mum, her parents, they were both deaf. Their parents had measles when they were in pregnancy, and they both come out deaf. So wow. I guess it was pretty tough life. My mum growing up, she was the eldest out of 3 children, and so they were awesome, they were supportive. But I guess and my dad, his father died when he was about 6. So he didn't really have that father figure. So I guess like most of us, they were kind of figuring out how to do parenthood, and they did the best they could. So, but they were always supportive, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then you obviously, did you go to primary school in Melbourne, Craig?
No, I went to primary school here in Canberra.
Okay, so when did you guys move to Canberra?
Yeah, that was about 1978, so I would have been 5 years old.
Yeah.
So, just first memories here. I had to get my tonsils taken out, and then then I went to the local primary school. Mum had to work early in the mornings, and Dad was obviously at work, so it was just me and my sister. So there was a few times I didn't go to school. I'd stay home and watch Humphrey V. Bear and eat all my lunch and all that. So I wasn't very fond at school from an early age, but that was my
Humphrey V. Bear, mate. Most people wouldn't remember Humphrey V. Bear. I remember Humphrey V. Bear, and he was the most educational person who wouldn't speak.
Yes, he was. Probably like me.
Yeah. So you've got one sister?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And she's an older sister?
Yeah, she's 5 years older than me. So.
Yeah, rightio. So she'd sort of look after you a little bit while her parents at work and...
She tried to. We always had a bit of a love-hate relationship, but she did the best she could. But there was numerous phone calls to mum's work and said, Craig's not going to school, you have to come home. And
yeah, right.
So, yeah, so...
Do you know what was behind you not going to school back in primary school, Craig?
Just reflecting, I think it was a bit of... just a bit of anxiety, really. I remember when we lived in Melbourne, actually, when my grandma used to look after me. I remember mum and dad go out, and I used to recall crying and not wanting to go. And I just think it was that separation, anxiety, and I think that continued.
Yeah,
but I didn't realise, obviously we didn't realise at the time, but just reflecting the last few years, I think it's definitely something to do with that.
Yeah, okay. So that was early primary school. Did you sort of that carry on all the way through primary school for you, or?
No, once I got to about grade 1 or 2, I was getting better. About grade 2, 3, I used to, I was fine then, and didn't mind going to school. But I was a bit of a daydreamer. I couldn't really catch on to what was being said and what was being taught, so I kind of struggled a bit there.
Yeah,
and back in those days, you didn't have all the help and counselling and stuff like that, like we do have now, all the assistance. So I kind of like fell through the gaps.
Yeah, okay. So just hard to concentrate, daydream in school, sort of wasn't really interested too much.
Yeah, pretty much. My concentration was just, it wasn't there. Like I tried, it wasn't like I was playing up on purpose, but I just found I just couldn't concentrate for long enough periods, and just daydreaming and wandering off, and so I just kind of just cruised through primary school, didn't do too well, but had a good time though, had some great friends, and it was enjoyable. Yeah.
So you were able to make friendship groups pretty easily as a young fella?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we had a good close bunch of friends that have kind of stayed together through high school, college, and still keep in contact now. So
wow, good on you.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. So
that's awesome. And did you do what did you do outside of school, Craig, around that age?
Around that age, around 1980, I remember we used to have a farm down near Melbourne, about Seymour. It's probably about 100 k's out of Melbourne.
Yeah.
And my nan, they were all footy heads, into the AFL, etc. So in 1980, she took me to my first game. I think it was the Collingwood versus Geelong, if I recall.
Wow.
And we went to the preliminary final or the semi-final, and just going there, just fell in love with Aussie rules, just seeing the atmosphere and all that, and the game, and fell in love with it. So that was kind of a big influence during primary school, like with the football, constantly outside kicking the footy around. And then got into remote control cars. That was another passion too. Like, I remember we used to get the Hornets and the
and all the. I remember them.
Yeah. So I used to get into all those, and they were good fun.
Yeah, right. So you had you were fairly close to your grandparents as well, Craig?
I only my granddad I didn't get to meet him. My grandma that in Victoria, from my dad's side, we were pretty close. And my grandparents up in Canberra, they were both deaf, so that was kind of obviously that was pretty hard to build a good connection at such a young age. I had to they could lip read a bit, but it was still difficult. So
right.
We kind of just had to bubble away.
So primary school, I guess, fairly, for want of a better term, fairly standard or normal childhood, fairly happy, pretty well adjusted, and just sort of cruise through primary school.
Yeah, pretty much. I had a great bunch of friends, and we had the sleepovers and all the birthday parties. So I had nothing to complain about really. So
yeah. And then I guess you enter into high school. You're now back to the beginning again of the bottom of the pile, as they say, when you go to high school. How was that for you?
Yeah, that was took a bit of adjustment. That's when I started. I'll go back a little bit around grade 6. I noticed I started getting these. I was weird feelings. Like I remember I was going down to the local shopping mall with my footy coach and his son and daughter to sell raffle tickets, and I started getting this weird sensation, like I was out of my body, like dreaming, like I was a third person looking at myself, and this
Wow.
carried on for about 2 months, and I didn't have the vocabulary to go home and tell mum and dad what I was feeling, especially in the 80s, mental health wasn't really talked about. So that continued for about 2 months, and that kind of like really worried me, like what was going on. And looking now back, that was called something called disassociation, and I started getting that at a young age, and that's can be related to social anxiety, where you. So obviously the situation that I was in, like going up to complete strangers, asking to buy a raffle ticket, that was causing social anxiety for me, and yeah, it's kind of like So that kind of kicked in around grade 6, and then going to grade 7, it was a big, you're going through your hormones, you're changing, whole new people coming in. So yeah, I started getting into a bit of trouble. Year 7, nothing major, just been a bit of a clown in class and mucking around. But yeah, I really struggled with my schoolwork there, and just trying to fit in. Didn't know who I was. I still had my good close mates, but just all the other people coming in, it was a bit of an adjustment for myself and I guess a few others. So yeah.
So do you do you think that came from your that separation anxiety? Do you think that transitioned into the social anxiety, or was it just something with you that you just really struggled to meet new people? You just a real fear of that happening for you?
Yeah, I didn't have that much fear in meeting new people. I think it was just a bit of an overload, like trying to. You were so close, and you're the big fish in grade 6, and then next minute you got all these, grade 10s and year 9 people bossing you around and stuff. So it took a little bit of adjustment, but yeah.
So how did that go then in through the rest of high school for you?
Yeah, year 8 was probably year 8 and year 9 were probably my 2 worst years. I just struggled, really struggled. Because I found I had dyslexia in year 9.
Right.
So just knowing that we didn't have the help back then, I just fell through the cracks, and I honestly didn't pass one grade in school except for PE. So I always got E's and D's and stuff. So and it was frustrating because I really wanted to be a physiotherapist, and
Wow.
it's just but I just knew I wouldn't have the ability to go to uni at that stage. So you got to the point like, oh, well, why bother? But I
Yeah. Okay.
still attended, but just went through the motions. So year 7 and 8 and 9, they're a bit difficult.
So
And
when
just
you
around,
say you found dyslexia, did you know yourself that you had dyslexia, or was that diagnosed in you?
yeah, the teacher spoke to my parents at like a parent teacher evening, and she said, oh, I think he's got dyslexia. This way he's spelling, and just with my aloftness at school, like just daydreaming and stuff. So I said I should get checked out, and went to the specialist. And we went through a few classes, but being in year 9, I just wasn't interested going there at lunchtime. Dad would come pick me up, but I just didn't appreciate it at the time. And I was more interested in my mates and football, and yeah. But I started getting depression. I noticed around year 8, I'd wake up and I'd just be so flat, and it was just thinking about going to school. It was cold, and it was just like, oh, I just hated those 2 years. Like, I just recall getting depression pretty bad back then, but I didn't realise what it was, so I didn't, say anything to mum or dad. I just kept it to myself and went through it all.
So you get out of bed though and go, but you just felt really flat and sad and
Yeah, just horrible. Like, just on the verge of just wanting to cry. Like, just go to school, you sit in your class, and you just didn't want to be there, and it was just a real struggle. But we got up and went through the motions and went there, but yeah, it was really hard. But
yeah, I remember those sort of feelings as well as a kid, and it's almost like a numb feeling sometimes, isn't it? You're just sort of like
yeah,
almost like a zombie, just going through, like you say, the motions and not really feeling any happiness or no real high and low stuff. It's just all sort of numb. That's how it was for me. Was it sort of like that for you, Craig, or what was it like?
yeah, yeah, you explained it well there, and just chuck in and probably a bit of teary. Like it was just like hope, like there was no future. Like what am I doing? Like I couldn't see a future. It was just like this is going to be the rest of my life. Just, as you said, a numb feeling and flat and feeling sad. So it was really tough 3 years when I think about it.
Yeah, rightio. So what happened when coming out of those? So that was 7, 8, and 9, and then into grade 10.
Yeah, grade 10, something changed a bit. I started getting lost I still had a little bit of depression, but not so much. So things changed, and I was more social, and I was started really enjoying my time at school. Even though I wasn't passing, but I had some great times in year 10 and going on to college. So yeah, I did appreciate year 10. That was that turned things around.
So you were definitely in it for the social aspect.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah. And
Yeah.
when you said you're right into your footy, so were you playing footy for a club then, or were you?
Yeah, I was playing for the Western Creek Wildcats. Started out in under eights and played through to about when I was 30. So yeah,
No.
so yeah, that was like a real passion. That kept me going through the hard stages, the depression, and
Yeah.
it taught me a lot of valuable life lessons. Actually, it was really good. Just
So
like
just explain that
teamwork.
a little bit, Craig. You know, you just got you through those times when, particularly as a young teenager, where you said that sport sort of got you through those times. I'm interested in that a little bit because you know you're feeling sad and numb, and but yet sports that real driver for you. Just explain the difference in your personality between the normal day to day stuff and then when you got to sport.
Yeah, okay, that was like a real flick of the switch. Like I was happy, I was confident, and just going to like even going to training, like it just seemed like everything else disappeared, and I could just focus for that hour and a half or playing 2 hours on the weekend, whatever it was. I just felt at home, and it just felt normal, and all the chatter inside your head that kind of disappeared,
Yeah,
and had some great mates there. So it was just and it's good just for you to build your confidence. Like I know after you did like you go to training and then you get home and you just that natural high from the endorphins or the
mm,
feel good chemicals coming out. So that was if I didn't have football, I'd hate to see where things would have gone a lot earlier. So that was a really good grounding for me, and
yeah, yeah.
that's why because I've got twin boys, and from an early age, I made sure they played some type of sport because it's so beneficial and it just lasts throughout your life. The all the values you get out of it.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that, isn't it, that we can feel so disconnected in one part of our life, but so connected in that other part. And it just gives us that freedom to not think. Sometimes we can just switch off and just go through the motions because obviously you're pretty good at it as well. But you just go through the motions of that and but really enjoy that time with your mates there and the banter that happens when you're there and um,
Yeah,
you know things that are probably said to you during the day at school that you take to heart, I guess. Your mates at footy are saying the same sort of stuff or harsher, and you'll just you know, it's amazing how that can
yeah,
happen. It actually, right at the moment, I wonder about some of the teenagers and kids that are have that outlet for or need that outlet for from their everyday life to sport, and they don't have that at the minute.
yeah,
So you know, I guess we need to try to get those guys to stay connected in other ways, don't we? But it's
yeah,
just interesting to hear the two different sides of Craig there. One at sport, who's really happy and just loves being there. And Craig in the mornings where and going through school at Saturday and sort of lonely and numb through that time. So um, it was
if I
just
could
an
add,
interesting comparison.
if I could add a little bit more, it didn't have to be footy either. It could have been cricket or just playing tennis. It was just sport and playing with someone else or just working hard, like that physical endurance. That was yeah, that was like a antidepressant in itself.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. We don't realise it when we're young like that, do we? But you know, now with a bit of self-reflection, like you said before, and I guess we'll do a lot of self-reflection through this. And
Please,
I know I'm always reflecting, but
yep,
you sort of understand how much input that has.
yep,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, how was so grade 11 and 12 down in Victoria? That's or New South Wales is like a college, isn't it? It's a different sort of yeah. So, what were
Yeah,
those years like for you, Craig? Did you go to 11 and 12, or what was life like then?
yeah. I went to grade 11, year 11, 12. Didn't pass one class, but then it was more highly sociable. It was just like I did it for mum and dad. They knew I wasn't passing, but I was just filling in time. I didn't pass one class, but just the social aspect of it all, and it was good for my anxiety. And yeah, I just really appreciated that time. It was a really good time in my life.
So, just a couple of things there. You said you did that for mum and dad. What? Just explain that a little bit more for me. What do you mean by that?
Oh, okay, just always getting bad grades at school. They were obviously disappointed. And it wasn't like I wasn't trying, but I just couldn't do it. And so they'd always come home and saying, if you don't go to school, like if you fail, you're going to end up, in a service station pumping fuel or whatever. And they were really high on education, but they just didn't know how to really direct me in the right direction. I did dyslexia, and I didn't know how to direct myself in the right direction. So I went there just because I guess there's a bit of pride for them that I actually finished and will keep going. Like I started something and just keep going through and finishing it. They're very big on that. So yeah, that's what I kind of mean by mum and dad, and yeah.
Okay. So what does that do for your self-worth, Craig, going to school and failing, in your view, failing all these classes, and you said that it was good for your anxiety, so I'm interested in what was happening around your anxiety levels around that age group. But what did that do for your self-worth going through that time of school and not doing well?
Yeah, I didn't dwell on it too much. I accepted I was going to fail. So when all my mates were going to the, we go have those conventions where they have like the army,
Yeah.
navy, and you can go there, and everyone's getting all their packs, and I just knew like I really wanted to be a physio or be the policeman actually, and I just knew what's the point. So I didn't think about it that much. I just accepted it that that's going to be my life. Like I'm not going to be academic, and but so I more concentrated on my social aspect. So looking back, yes, it would have been definitely like demoralising for me not being able to pass school, and it has been. Like looking back now, but yeah, I just focused on my football and my social life back basically in year 11 and 12. So, and my social anxiety wasn't too bad like around that stage, but I did start noticing my moods were going up and down, and where I'd be really hypo, and then I'd go down to a medium level, and then I go through depression. And but I knew if I kept doing exercise, I didn't go down to depression so much as much. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you say that you notice that your moods are sort of up and down, you're talking about hypersensitive, really high and really low.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, yeah, I had because I got bipolar.
Yep.
So
That was
the
undiagnosed at that time, though, wasn't it?
yeah, that was undiagnosed. So I didn't know I had it at that stage, but that's when I started noticing that it started kicking in,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it got real. As it got older, it got a bit more intense with the like the hyperactivity and the
Yeah.
hyper arousal. So yeah, which kind of got me in a bit of strife.
Yeah. Yeah. So through school, didn't do great at school, but had obviously created some really good connections with mates and obviously really strong connections because you're still in touch with them now. Um, how about when school finished, Craig? What did life have in store for you just right then?
Yeah, I went straight to work. Mum worked at the Canberra Hospital, and so she got me a job as a wardsman. Like, so I had about 3 weeks off school. I was expecting to have 6 months off and have a nice little holiday, but that wasn't to be. So I went and worked in the public service as a wardsman, like taking the patients to theatre and
Yeah.
exercise groups at the hospital. So yeah, I went straight to work and then continued. Yeah, my sporting activities, playing Aussie rules, and yeah,
So that was you were 18 when you became a woodsman.
yes, yeah.
How was that, mate? Doing that service for other people. I know you're getting paid for it, but you're doing that service for other people, and you would have come across some really ill people, and a huge variety of people you would have seen through there. What was that like as an 18-year-old? Great.
Yeah, maybe it kind of matured me a bit about how precious life is. So most of my mates, we were going out getting drunk and chasing women and all that. But then you go to work on Monday and you're wheeling a person that's your age that's just lost their leg in the motorbike accident and their whole life's turned around. So it kind of matured me a bit and a bit more. It showed me to a bit more passion and empathy towards people. How everyone's got a story, and yeah, and how quickly things in your life can turn around like very fast. So
Mm.
yeah, I kind of appreciate what that taught me in the because I was there for about 10 years.
Is that right? So, Mum got you a
Yeah,
job there just to try to, give you something to do after school, and you stayed there for 10 years and did that.
yeah, yeah. I got yeah because I didn't have the confidence. Like not as I said, but going back to school and failing, I started getting low self confidence about working and stepping outside the boundary. So, so that's why I probably stayed there, probably 2 or 3 years longer than I should have. But yeah.
So a bit more of a comfort zone sort of thing for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you were there from 18 to 28. Just go through those early years of your sort of 18 to 20. I know you're working at the hospital. What sort of social things are you doing? The social activities you're doing, and I guess you're still playing sport. I know you were playing footy.
Yeah.
So just have a chat about that for a bit.
Yeah, sure. So around that age, I met my first girlfriend really, and she related. We had twin boys together. We met, and so we were pretty tight and go out a fair bit and socialise with my friends. Around that age, I started experimenting with marijuana for about 6 months,
Yep.
like a lot of us do, and yeah, I liked that at first, but then I just got, I didn't really agree with me with the start getting a bit self paranoid and just lazy. So I tried that for about 6 months, but that wasn't really my go. And but through those 10 years, the bipolar started kicking in a great deal.
Yep.
So normally, if you go for a hyper stage, my excitement levels for about a week or 2 weeks would be about a 7 or 8 out of 10, and where normal persons will be about 4 or 5. And so when I go for back to a level stage, I go back to a 3 or 4, and I want to go back up to that 7 or 8, that feeling. So, and then if you go to a depressive stage, you go to ground zero. So I started using alcohol to induce that, to, which led to all sorts of things like I'd be the last to leave. Like I go on 2 day benders. I'd be cheating on my partner. End up in fights. Just go and gamble. So yeah, it was a good period of my life, but also a pretty sad period.
Yeah, I know what you mean there. I know exactly what you mean there. So there's some really, I know for me, I did the same sort of thing, and there's some really fun times with my mates, and there's some really funny stories through that period. But there's this darkness in behind that of. So I'm just interested in something that you said. Then the darkness, I guess, for me was I was drinking alcohol, and everyone thought I was really happy and great to be around, and Ree's having a cracking time. Have a look at him; he's up dancing and all that sort of stuff. But inside, I was drinking alcohol and doing other things to try to hide how I was feeling about what was going on. What was it like for you, mate? I know you said you were drinking alcohol to try to alleviate the highs and lows. Just explain that a little bit more for me, if you can.
Yeah, just so when I was feeling low, if to go to a social situation, that's when the social anxiety really kicked in, and to go to a social setting, I couldn't do it unless I started drinking. So, and I wanted to drink one, and an hour I'd have 2 or 3 until I got that little happy, cheery feeling, and that was just a coping mechanism from there on in. And but it got to a point where sometimes you get too drunk or too wasted, and then you'd be making a clown of yourself, and then you wake up on the Sunday morning and, oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? And then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday blues would continue, and then you couldn't wait till the week and come again, so you get that that social interaction and be on good terms instead of being a bit sad and a bit self-conscious.
Yeah, so it's just a cycle, wasn't it? It was for me too. I'd wait till Friday. I'd almost have these butterflies in my stomach, waiting for Friday afternoon to get out on the drink. Then Saturday, be sick all day and think I'm not doing that again tonight. And then 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, those things would come in again and go, and just repeat the behaviour. And that ended up being every day.
Yep.
So what was that doing? Because you were still having you still had undiagnosed bipolar at the time, Craig. Is that right? So what was that doing for your mental state, particularly that the 2 or 3 day blues afterwards that a lot of people still don't realise? I see all these young guys down the footy club who drink all weekend, and then you say to them on a Tuesday night of training, "How you going? I'm a bit flat today." They haven't linked the two together yet. What was that doing for your mental state?
I was asking some serious questions, like, because I noticed, like when I was on, like when I was up, I was on, but when I was down, like I just didn't feel like myself, and I couldn't interact properly with people, and I found that really odd because one minute I could interact, and then
Mm.
next minute I was hit and miss, like people go what type thing, and that was due to the drinking and the blues, like the 2 or 3 day blues. So I was starting to think that was something that was up, like someone was wrong mentally, like I don't know if it was depression or whatever it was. But then
Mm.
you're a football player, you're doing your weights, you're fairly fit, and you've got your self pride. So to actually reach out and be diagnosed with depression or something like that was kind of going to be a bit embarrassing, or not going to feel the same again. And that's something I struggled with. So I didn't decide to seek help.
Yeah.
But then also saying that I didn't know there was help that what I did, what you can help yourself with now. So I didn't realise the help that's available, and everything's basically fixable if you go and seek help and seek the correct treatment. And unfortunately, I didn't at that stage. So it kind of made my mental health worse during that period, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? The stigma that was around back then, I guess, and not even just stigma. I just don't think there was the knowledge that we have now of what just I guess, from one of another, again, a better term, a simple drug like alcohol, how much that can affect us with that come down period. So we didn't have that knowledge, but we also didn't have the knowledge around the mental health and where to reach out to. There wasn't things back then like Beyond Blue and
Yep.
for domestic violence, white ribbon, and all those sort of things. We didn't have that back then. It was really quite difficult to articulate because the language wasn't being spoken everywhere. So I remember thinking the same thing: what's wrong with me?
Yep.
And no one else was talking about it, so I just thought it was just me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You think
um,
it's just normal, and until you have a look at the movies, they're all like walking around like zombies and strapped to the beds, and you think, oh Jesus, I don't want to end up like that. So you see Hollywood blockbusters of that, and that's really off-putting. Like, I can't go and talk to someone about my mental health because that's where I'll end up. So there was
yeah,
a
and that's
huge
a
stigma.
real. What's that?
There was a huge stigma around that time for mental health, and yeah,
There was, mate. It actually is a really good point because I remember watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest
yeah,
and thinking to myself, I was actually quite sad inside and very, very lonely and numb. And but I didn't want to reach out because I didn't want to be that fella who was on One Flew
yeah,
Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But it's amazing how we link things in. This and it can be a good thing to see those things, but it can be quite negative, have a negative
yeah,
impact sometimes too. Yeah. So that was sort of that period of that 25, 26, 27. I guess you are now, Craig,
yeah.
doing those sort of things. Yeah. What was
Yeah.
your relationship like and what else was going on for you at that time?
Okay, so when I was around 27, become a father, and that kind of changed me a fair bit with my going out. Like for the previous 6 years, like I was the worst partner. Like I was going through the moments of ups in the bipolar. I was cheating, spending all the money, and yeah, it's pretty embarrassing and pretty hard to
Mm,
acknowledge, but I have to accept it because that's what happens when you don't seek help
mm,
and look after yourself. And so around 26, 27, how old was I? I was 26 when I had the twin boys, Josh and George, and I kind of started really knuckling down then, like going out, and if I did go out, I'd be going out with Kelly, my partner at the stage, and so yeah, it was that kind of leveled me out a bit. I started to mature, definitely when I had the kids,
yeah.
and but unfortunately, when I got to the age of 30, we split up,
Yep.
and yeah, that's why I went through about 2 or 3 years of I took it really hard, not being able to deal with my emotions, and being shown how to deal with your emotions. I went really, really off the rails there for about 2 or 3 years.
Can you explain that to me a little bit, mate? So you weren't shown how to express your emotions and you went off the rails, but just explain that to me, how that sort of manifested for you.
Um, are you talking what my actions when I wasn't
Yeah.
able to?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't accept that the relationship was over. I didn't know how to deal to process that thing. So I remember one night, um, my ex partner she met someone else, and I didn't feel like the father of the children because someone else was like a stepdad was coming in.
Mm.
Because I didn't know how to process it, I just built up so much anger. And one night I went around there and I kind of ambushed her new partner. And I remember he was hopping out of the car and he used to play for the Canberra Cannons and he's about 6'8". And I
All
got,
right.
oh shit. And I kind of pushed him and punched him once and then scurried off. But I went home, and the next minute I had about 5 cop cars come to my house, and so I started getting in trouble with the law, like being a pain in the ass, threatening the new partner, just because I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, and I thought that was my world had gone, and I'll never be able to go replace it. So yeah, it was really tough times. So
If
I
you could
really struggled.
articulate those emotions now, Craig, and I know you said you felt like you were, but if you could articulate those emotions now, what were they that were actually going on for you at the time that you were sort of, um, I guess, neglecting to really honour? What were those emotions that were really happening?
Okay, oh, well, first of all, it was self-worth. Because I think I had a lot of emotions stuck on that I won't be able to have that again, like another happy relationship or maybe another family. So my self worth, I wasn't able to love myself. I was always hard on myself, and to empathise with others. Like I wasn't able to show Kelly, okay, I should be happy for you. We didn't work out, but you've moved on with your life. So they were the two big things I learnt, and not just the self-worth was probably the big one because you
Yeah.
get to that so angry that you think you're not going to be able to have another relationship or enjoy life again. And I was so hung up on that. And yeah, that's the two emotions that really stuck with me. And I didn't know how to express those in that
Mm.
time frame.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear around that, isn't it? When I've been through 2 marriage breakups, and there's a lot of, and one didn't have children in it, and the second one did have children involved, and there's a lot of fear, isn't there, around who am I going to be to my kids? Am I going to be able to be a dad? And I guess because we aren't taught really to articulate these things, particularly as men, um, we start to lash out in anger and hate and
Yeah,
vitriol when really what we're trying to say is, hey, I'm really scared I'm not going to be involved in my kid's life, and I'm not going to have any sort of worthwhile, involvement with them. But we can't explain that to our ex-partners. We sort of just lash
yeah,
out as hate and vitriol. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, definitely. And so I got in trouble with the law around that time, and it was she was good. I had the kids every second weekend, and I could see them during the week. But I think the thing I struggle most with is not going home and seeing them waiting at the door. Just the little things you miss out when
mm,
you don't see them every day. And I was very resentful of that. And as you said, you
yeah.
can't explain it to your ex partner. But yeah, but that's life. You live and learn.
Yeah, okay. So you started getting in trouble with the law. How did that extend, Craig? Now, so you're 30 now?
Yeah, I'm 30.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going drinking a fair bit.
Hmm.
Um, I and then I was just making harassing phone calls, like I want to see the kids, blah blah blah. Just being a pain in the ass, really.
Mm.
And there was one day when I was meant to go and pick him up. It was an Anzac Day, and we had pre-organised for me to go and pick up the children. And I went around there, and they weren't there. And so any excuse I could use to dig a bit of venom in, I rang up about 4 or 5 times, and
Mm.
wasn't too nice. Just yeah, it wasn't nice. And then yeah, I got a phone call from the police. They said come down to the station and have a talk. And then I spent the night in the cell.
Oh, wow.
And that yeah, so I remember as we're driving out there from the police station, the copper said to me, "Look, we all go through it. You got to start making changes." That kind of sort of sunk in, but I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
And then, so I went to the judge next day. I got bail and basically given a fair warning if I was to return, I'd be in jail. So I kind of pulled my head in there. It was hard to, but I said I have to bite the bullet and make some changes. And yeah, but
And
it's
where were you working then, Craig? Because you obviously finished. You did 10 years as a woodsman. So what were you doing for work and
yeah,
sort of thing?
yeah. So I become a parking inspector.
Wow. Okay.
So I was walking the beat, and I really enjoyed that job for for a few years. It was
Yeah.
different, and it was just good. You're outdoors, and you're just walking around your own patrol, and yeah, it was really enjoyable. You get a bit of a mouthful, but it's come with the job. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was an eye opener. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was a parky, and then I met. Then I just had an ongoing little flings of relationships until I met my current partner now. So I was still like in turmoil, and that lasted for about 3 or 4 years. It took me
Right.
to get over things. Like I still feel a little bit of, I look back and feel a bit of sadness, but
Mm.
yeah, it took a little while to get over what happened. So
Yeah. Well, I think that's a normal thing, though, isn't it, to look back
yeah,
on some parts of our life and have a little bit of, um, you know, maybe sadness and regret. I don't really believe in a lot of regret, but yeah, but that grief for a relationship. But I guess the thing is that you now accept what's happened, and
yeah,
I think that's the biggest part for when relationships do break down like that is the acceptance of what's going on is really hard to take.
yeah.
So it took you about 4 years to get to that place.
Yeah, definitely. And I had a great quote the other week, and basically said, as you said, don't have any regrets because we can only deal with the situation with the tools we have at the time. Like so,
Yeah.
that's all the tools I had at the time that I knew how to express myself. Sadly, but yeah, so there's no point regretting it now. I learned you've done it and you've learned from it, and yeah, you can move on.
So what was you met a new partner, and then you're sort of going through your mid 30s. You've got two kids.
Yes.
Tom, yeah. So just what's happening through your mid 30s now, or your sort of early to mid 30s?
Yeah, so I'm seeing my kids every second weekend. I'm coaching football with them. I'm doing well at work. I got promoted to like a team leader.
Yeah.
So I did pretty well from not passing school to actually work pretty hard and get
Mm.
a fairly good high paying job. I met my current partner Carmen, and things are really going well. Like between 33 and 38, I think life is not too bad. Well, I put
Yeah.
out to 36, so everything was going. I bought a house, so
Yeah.
yeah, no, things were going well at this period.
And what was
Uh,
happening with your mental health then, Craig? You still had undiagnosed bipolar on taking it at the time.
yeah, that's correct. I still had the ups and downs, but they weren't as intense. They kind of they were less and less frequent. So it kind of they still arrived and come, but they didn't happen all the time. So I stopped playing footy and I started kept doing weights and a bit of walking. I noticed that kept me at bay with the bipolar and the ups and downs. So I was doing that on a daily basis.
Yeah,
So
right.
no,
And
things were pretty good at that stage.
do you think a different, more stable relationship may have had an impact, and a stable job may have had an impact on how the extremes between the highs and lows had lessened because you had a bit more of a stable life? Do you think?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Just having that security and just the routine and not flinging from one relationship to another, not
Yeah.
going out as much drinking,
Mm.
not getting the Monday, Tuesday blues. So yeah, things were really going well
Yeah,
at this
right.
stage.
So your alcohol intake had reduced quite a bit as well. Now, so you're really focusing on fitness and the kids and your relationship.
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So no, things are. Yeah, I was quite happy at this stage.
Yeah,
So
cool. So that was about 38. Now, I've heard your story, which is quite impactful on me. So somewhere that that stability started to break a little bit with some drug use. Could you go down that path and what led you to that, Craig?
yeah, sure. So after a few years, I was doing a lot of overtime, and so I was working about 50, 60 hours a week. And I don't know, when you start getting to your 40, like close to your 40s, you start thinking, I don't know, is this what life's about? And so I started getting a little bit restless, and I was probably going through a mania stage. But I recall one night we went out, and I got very, very drunk and was making a fool of myself.
Mm.
And this is at the local club, and one of my mates come up to me and said, "I'll come outside." And went outside, and I was pretty drunk, and he gave me like a little pipe, the ice pipe. he said, have a smoke of this. This will sober you up. And so I had a take on it. It was a puff, as you want to call it. And I kind of become sober very quickly. And I was able to go back in there and act like I hadn't drunk at all. So we hung out for the rest of the night, and I had a couple more takes, and I ended up staying up for about 3 nights, no sleep.
Wow.
And I only had a little bit, so I remember the third night I started getting worried, and I started seeing things on the wall because I hadn't slept and I was tired. And so that was my first introduction to using the drug ice. And
Yeah, well, so
yeah,
that's I'm really big on this, Craig, and I remember a mate of mine. I was just doing an interview just before we came on actually, and I was saying that I was drinking alcohol, and a mate of mine introduced me to marijuana, and I didn't like it because it made me internalise. So his way of fixing that not liking marijuana was to put speed on the top of it rather than just go, okay, it's not for you, mate. No worries. I guess I'm really big on the people we surround ourselves with. So your mate at the time, rather than get you to and say to you, "Hey mate, you've been a bit of a dick on the alcohol. Probably need to settle down a bit, have a couple of glasses of water, maybe go and sleep it off." It was put an ice pipe in your mouth and this will sober you up.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
And at this stage, I didn't realise it, but he'd become fairly addicted, and he started to sell it a bit. And
yeah,
so yeah, I had it that night, and I saw the benefit for sobering up, and then I didn't think about it after that the stage. So I remember waking up feeling fine, or not fine after 3 days, obviously no sleep, but the hangover, I didn't get a hangover. I felt really good, and but after that, I didn't think about it for another 6, 7 months. So it wasn't
yeah,
like I had it and it was like an instant addiction. Like sometimes gets portrayed in the media.
yeah,
It's not a yeah. So
yeah. So just go back to that for a second. You did one night on that. You had 3 takes, and that was enough to keep you up for 3 days.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty frightening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had probably about 20. I don't know, would have been about $20 worth, if that,
Yeah.
and kept me up for 3 days. So you can see kind of the cost benefit, like for going out drinking, or you can see why some young people are going down that track of using that because it's so cheap,
Mm,
unfortunately.
mm,
But
yeah. So I took that night. Didn't they do anything for 6 or 7 months? Life just goes back to, I guess, the standard. And I know you explained before that we get to 40 and we think, is this what life's got to offer? So that's sort of the mundane part of life, just the repetitive things that are happening from day to day.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I guess sometimes there's a great line on a song that says, all the rusted signs that we pass along the way, choosing the shiny ones instead. We don't really see all the beautiful things after we're used to them for so long. We don't see all the beautiful things that are happening that our partners are doing, that our kids are doing, the gratefulness for the house we've got and all that sort of stuff. I guess we don't see that after a while. We just take it for granted maybe, and then
yeah,
want for something more. So next 6 or 7 months for you is fairly standard.
yeah.
Explain what happened after that.
Yeah, so as you said, very standard. And then we went out to another party, and my same mate that gave me the first take of ice, he was there, and similar situation. I was drunk, but started taking it. And then it got to then I started hanging out. Like he joined into it with another old mate, and they got a share house. So we started going around there on a bit more regular basis, and then he'd give me a take on the weekend. And so they started becoming a common theme. Instead of drinking, I'd start going around there and have a bit of a take on ice, and then stay up for the Saturday, Sunday night, or maybe the Friday, Saturday night, then go to work Monday. But I was able to function, and that went on for about 6 years, I guess.
Yeah, so just on the weekends for about six
Yeah,
years doing that. Yeah,
yeah. And then it's slowly going to after that started going to a daily occurrence. And yeah, so after about a month or two of a daily occurrence, I was able to function at work. I was able to have 3 or 4 hours sleep a night, go to work, and still be actively function.
mm,
And it kind of brought my mania out in the bipolar. So I was
mm,
able to be more creative, think fast. So I kind of did improve my work performance.
mm,
And but around that time, I stopped doing weights and going to walk, and I was just doing the ice on a daily basis then, and that led to me getting a fairly serious habit.
Mm.
Um,
So you were replacing all of the natural high stuff of the endorphin rush of doing gym and going for walks and runs and all those sorts of things, and you'd replace that with the unnatural high of smoking
yeah,
ice.
yeah,
Um, Craig, um, we hear a lot in the news about chasing a high. I just want to for you to explain this for, I guess, the younger people that might be listening to this today. Do you sort of remember now, thinking back, of being high that first time and how good that felt, but never being able to recapture that? Was it like that for you, or was it something different for you?
yeah. It was similar. The highs got less and less, but they were first few months. They were still intense, but they gradually started wearing off. But
Mm.
I guess it's hard because if you've got a underlying mental health issue, you're really exacerbating the actual
Yeah.
the bipolar or the schizophrenia. So you're bringing it on. So that's why it's imperative to work out if you do have a mental health, because when you're using that, that's going to bring on
Mm.
your symptoms a lot longer. So, but yes, over time, especially if I start using daily, because it's so seductive. Like it brings out your confidence, top of the world. But when you start getting, you're gonna be that person that says I'm not gonna be addicted. And I was exactly that same person. And the next minute I'm doing it daily, and I couldn't get out of the trap. I couldn't function if I didn't have it. I'd take an achy joints. I
Mm.
couldn't. I'd be sleeping, so I had to have it on a daily basis by this stage. So yeah,
Yeah.
it
Got
does
got
wear
to
off.
got to that point where your body just relied on it to function now.
Yeah, yep. So I'm using it just to feel semi-normal, if you want to call it normal. There was
Yeah.
no actual high out of it now. It was just to actually get up and function at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So you're at maintenance level now.
Yeah,
You,
yeah, yep,
yeah, just maintaining normal bodily function, and you had to do that because your body had just got so used to having that toxic chemical in your body.
yeah, yep. So there
Yeah,
was no rushes then. There was definitely no
no,
rushes.
it's really important for people to understand that, because I think a lot of people just say just get off drugs, just stop. But and they think that every time you take after years of use that you're actually getting high, but you're not. It's just a maintaining of some sort of consistent normality,
Yep,
and there's no high there anymore. It's just maintaining some sort of functionality.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
it's horrible, horrible. You're just on a mono. There's no ups, so there's no downs. So you stop using it, and it's just a dead end way to be living. It's
yeah.
horrible. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really important for young people to understand that, because I think they have, again, the movies, we spoke about the movies before, and I remember going out and doing an education session on drugs, Craig, at a club, and we'd walked home, we got home, walked in the door, and there was the movie The Hangover on, and the very first scene I saw was the Asian fella on his parachute
yeah,
saying, "I love cocaine," and I'm thinking,
yeah,
oh my God, this is what people are seeing on the movie, so they think it's really cool.
yep,
And
yep,
that it's okay, you can take it, and the next day you can function, but it gets to a point where none of that's happening anymore. It's just
yeah.
flat. You're just so numb, and there's no feeling at all. It's a really important message to get across to people. So you start using on a daily basis, Craig, but you're still functioning. Where does that start to develop after that, mate?
Yeah, so I'm still functioning, going to work, but my attitude's like I'm tired. I'm arriving late to work. This is going on for about 8 months. Where I'm every day I'm about an hour late for work, and
Wow.
really pushing the limits. At this stage, I have probably on the pricing back then. I probably have about a 400 a day addiction,
Wow.
and so to survive and to survive, I had to start selling like a bit of ice to actually pay for my addiction. So it started out with just close friends, and before you know it, I'm selling to friends of friends. And at this stage, it just kind of blows up, and it's kind of getting out of control. Of people coming and going. I'm driving around after work, dropping off drugs. I'm getting home at 1 in the morning, getting up at 9 o'clock, trying to go to work, and this is going on for day in day out.
Mm,
It was just I started losing the grip of reality at this stage, and so after about 8 months of work, I was sent for a fitness for duty, just because of my behaviour and liking up late to work, which is
Mm.
understandable. Um, so they sent me to a psychiatrist. Um, and during this time, like, all bad things are happening, because if you're using drugs on a daily basis, and you're starting to hang out with the underworld, the seedy type of the society. There's no
Mm.
glamour in this. There's definitely no glamour in this. It's yeah, you hang out with bad people, bad situations. So my life is totally out of control at this stage. So I go and see the psychiatrist, and I kind of hide the drug use, and he kind of puts it down to stress and depression. He gives me 8 months off work, and I was there for an hour, had 8 months off, and then here I am, on the holiday really, and just using more and more drugs, and just doing the most ridiculous things that I would never thought I'd be doing. Just
I
for that.
smiled then because we become quite cunning, don't we, to hide our usage. I reckon there's people that knew me back in my 20s that wouldn't have had a clue what I was doing. Not a clue.
Yeah,
And we get so attuned to lying and
yeah.
to hiding that sort of stuff. Could I just ask, through that period, what was your family doing, mate? What was your partner and the kids? Were they obviously they were noticing a change in you? What was happening there?
Um, my partner was kind of suspected it, and I'd be going off saying, "Don't know what you're talking about," just being defensive, and she kind of knew I was having the odd thing on the weekend, but I think she realised it was a daily occurrence, and so she kind of, like, I started getting aggressive towards her, like yelling and stuff, and so it got to a point where I guess I scared her not to ask questions about it,
Mm,
and yeah, it's pretty shameful, and yeah, that's how low I'd come, just to hide the truth.
yeah.
I was still in contact with the kids, and but when they were staying over, I kind of I didn't have people come over to use drugs or sell drugs, so I just basically spend my time with them. So I'm not sure if they caught on with my behaviour, like my being erratic thinking, or so. I haven't asked them, but I should one day. Like, I have
Yeah.
been coming here and said, "Oh, they're both 19 now," and said, "This is what happened to me." So it's out there.
Mm. Yeah, okay. So now your partner sort of suspecting it, but life's just going for her. It's just I guess she's suspecting what's going on, but not knowing. You've been put on now stress leave, so you're at home being
Yeah,
paid
yeah,
to stay at home all day, and you're now dealing. Um, just go on with the next stage of what happened there for you, man.
yeah. Looking back, I started going a bit psychotic, a drug-induced psychotic, um, where I was actually seeing things up in the, like, thought I was seeing things in the sky, and truly
Mm,
believed it. And
mm,
but my rest of my day, I was kind of still interacting normally. But at this stage, like, I had a separate life to Carmen, my partner. I was just living my own life, and she was too afraid to say anything.
mm,
Um, so yeah, things got really out of hand. I had a bloody an affair, um,
yeah,
and that didn't end too well. Like, she was a user as well, and it was just, I don't know how Carmen stayed, and put up with what she went through, because she would have gone through hell.
mm,
And but I was just denying everything and blaming others, and wasn't taking responsibility for myself.
yeah,
My parents, I didn't have any time for. Um, so I kind of lost contact with my parents, lost contact with my schoolmates.
mm,
Um, and then I started getting to a point where I was using so much drug, and I couldn't get out of the house. Like, my anxiety, like, when you go through psychosis, you start getting bad anxiety, drug-induced anxiety. It took me about 4 or 5 days to leave the house to actually go and get a haircut. It got to that bad. Like,
yeah, right.
I couldn't pay bills. I was basically just a living zombie at
Mm,
this point, and
mm.
yeah, it was really bad.
And
Um,
using all day every day, Craig.
yeah, and a lot at this stage, because I'm buying a copious amounts. It was just there, I just had it there in front of me, and using more and more just to feel normal. At this stage, you're getting drug deals, you're getting going wrong with other people. I'm trying to help other people get drugs, and they're ripping off someone. I'm getting the blame for it. I'm getting guns. I had a actual gun put to my chin over like a 10,000 debt,
Mm.
and I'm trying to function like a normal, interact with people with all this high stress, high cortisol. Like when that happened, it was in a dark location, and there was two of them, and I was standing in front of my car, and they come out, and they both kind of separated. And at this stage, I started like, knew this is going to go down a bad way. Next minute, one put out a gun, put out here. And when you get onto Google Earth and you type in an address and it'll kind of go around the world and zoom in,
Yeah.
that's how my life felt at that point. Like
Right.
I didn't. You don't think about your life. You just think about that present time. Like you feel every breath, you feel every word, and I just didn't know how I was going to get out of this situation. And yeah, I got post-traumatic stress from that. I
Yeah.
didn't know how I was. I somehow got it, like talked my way out of it. But
Mm.
wasn't through about 6 months later down the track. Yeah, it started hitting me with nightmares, and yeah, life was just a mess. Like,
Just
yeah,
just spiraling way out of control, massive amounts of debt, full blown addiction now every day,
yeah,
relationships breaking down, everything's happening there. I know you got in trouble with the law again around this time, Craig. Can you run through that a little bit and how that started to take place?
yeah. So so I go back to work about 8 months after they gave me the time off, and I started getting real suicidal thoughts during this stage. So I just couldn't honestly see a way out of the mess I was in, out of the lifestyle, because you got to think too. You're gone from 9 to 5 living to staying up all night and doing risky behaviour where you can
Yeah.
get busted by someone else, by a gang, by the cops, and your adrenaline is racing all the time. So
Mm.
you're just
Mm.
thinking, how am I going back to a normal life? And I started getting real bad depression at this stage, where every cell and fibre was just screaming at me to kill myself. And so at this stage, I went down to I actually went down to commit the act. I had all the utensils I needed,
Mm.
and it just so happened that as I was going down, I got pulled over by the police, and I got a random drug test, and it come up there I was positive, and I kind of broke down, and I said that, I was on my way to kill myself, and they kind of took me to the psych ward at the hospital,
Mm.
and we sat there for about 2 hours. They kind of tried to hold me there, but they needed a court order. And
Yep.
because it was like 3 a.m. in the morning, I kind of walked out and escaped.
Mm.
So things were going pretty from bad to worse at this stage.
Mm.
And so I went back home, and I just had enough. And I remember the next, about 2 days afterwards, I had a fight with Carmen, and
Mhm.
we were arguing about something, and I went over there and I slapped her, and I lost control, and I slapped her, and she called the police rightly, and they come around and took me down to the police station, and I was charged with the domestic violence,
Yep.
and then I was taken to the cell in the city, and I spent a night there, and yeah, that was I remember going in there and still psychotic, and I remember they were trying to put me in the cell, and I was resisting arrest, and there was about six of them, and I just remember I was screaming, going off, and they put the pepper spray, and yeah, I spent the night there, and yeah, had to go to the court the next day, and
Mm.
so things got really bad, really
So
bad.
your life's really become unrecognizable now. All those things that you really weren't doing through your 20s and early 30s and coaching and playing footy, that's all gone now. The things that you feared about, not spending time with your family and your kids, that's gone through drug abuse now as well. And now you're offending domestic violence. So you've really become unrecognizable to
Yeah,
yourself, so much so that you didn't want to be around anymore. You didn't want to be alive anymore.
yeah,
So could you see that was at the time? Could you see that was the drugs doing that to you, or did you just put all of that back on yourself and you just wanted to end your life because it was who you were, or could you see that if I gave up drugs, I might not be like that? Could you see that at that time, or not at all?
I could see it, but I just didn't know how to. Like when you're in that stage, you don't know how you're going to do it. Like
Yeah.
I could, there's no way I could function like a day with not having drugs. That'd be impossible. And I had to go. I was thinking about my job still. Believe it or not, I still had a job at this stage. So I just couldn't see a way out of it. I genuinely thought it was going to be impossible, and I was going to be addicted to this at the stage. So I didn't have anyone to actually sit down and say, "Take me." Like what you really need is to get away for 7 or 10 days and be away from the whole scene, and then where you can just get that little circuit breaker. But yeah, so I just couldn't see a way of stopping at this point, and that's where my hatred for myself, the new idea I had created for myself, and I couldn't see I could go back to the old me.
Yeah.
It was just such a mess.
What's that? You're such a mess.
Yeah, such a mess.
So you'd spend the night in the watch house then, and then was that a wake up call at all at the time, Craig, or does behaviour just continue on from there?
Yeah, so I go to the I go to the magistrate's court, and then I just had real bad feelings that I might not get out because I've been there about 3 or 4 times before regarding the previous one, and my worst fears come through, and I was denied bail. And I just remember being there just in a daze, and they took me. The guards come and grab me. They took me into a little cell next door. It was probably in a 3 by 3 little cell, and you're so close to society, but you're so far away. You're like they strip you naked. And I remember he said, like in the movies, he said, bend down and squat. And I could see all those movies where people doing that, and I'm squatting and I'm coughing, and I just thought, how the hell did I get in this situation? What have I done? And yeah, that's when I started getting disassociation. So I kind of just, to protect myself, I just kind of went to a daydream, and I went back down to the bottom cells. There's probably about 8 other prisoners there. And you know how you see in movies, they're in the yard, they're kind of walking up and down, doing their daily exercise. Like that's what it was like. You had all your hard cream that'd been there 3 or 4 times before, just walking up and down, pacing, and I'm just sitting in the corner, just almost in tears. So I was scared, I was petrified, and I just didn't know when I was going to get out.
Yeah.
Having your freedom taken away like that, even though I've done such a bad thing and wrong. It's intimidating because you don't know when you're going to get out and when you're going to be able to try and change your life. So yeah, it was a scary period.
So you went into the watch house then from court. Did you then get transitioned into mainstream prison, Craig?
Yeah, so you go into the holding yard, and you spend about 5 hours there. They do give a medical, and they let you talk to your family. And rang up my dad, and dad just gave me a grilling, said, you're a dickhead, what have you done? And that made kind of me feel worse. And it wasn't the time for, all I wanted him to say, look, we'll get through this, you fucked up, but we'll get through it.
Yeah.
And he kind of didn't have my back, and I felt, I felt such a low place. And so the first week they put you in isolation in like a little room, 3 by 3, and you have another prisoner with you, and they hold you there where you get 23 hours locked in, an hour outside exercise, and you spend about a week there until you get out into mainstream. They work out where they can put you for your own safety. If you owe people money, or if you have a set with someone that someone knows, or you're in a gang. So it's it's like a different world. Yeah, it's like a different world.
How was your addiction recovery? So you've gone into pretty much enforced detox.
Yeah.
How did that go there, Craig?
Yeah, that wasn't. I was so petrified and scared. I was tired, but I was. It kind of helped me because I was able to kind of sleep my way through it for the first week. But there was basically drugs everywhere in there. Like you had access to anything you want. So it wasn't going to be a problem. Like,
is that right? So you've gone straight into there, and you're just scoring in jail now, so you're able to keep up the habit in there anyway.
Yeah. It's readily available, and So it was no different from being outside in that regard.
Yeah. How did what's like? How do you? You've got no cash. What's happening? How are you scoring in jail? What's happening?
So what you have like a uh, a card or an account where the outside they can transfer money in.
Hmm.
So basically, what you do, you get your partner or someone to transfer $100 or whatever it is into the person's account,
Yeah.
and you pay that way. And
So you were getting your partner to do that for you?
yeah, so they putting into my yeah, but she didn't realise what I
Yeah.
didn't come clean, but she wasn't wasn't born yesterday. She would realise what was going on.
Mm, yeah.
So yeah, that was a interesting period.
So how long were you in prison for, mate?
Yeah, so we're in there for about 6 weeks in the mainstream. So after we went in there and we spent a week in isolation, and then we went. I was bunked in with a young guy, and he was in there for stabbing someone on the outside, and but we had a axe murderer in there. He actually was selling with an axe murderer.
Yeah.
You had bikies, you had people in there for drink driving, so it was a whole different range of
Mm,
offences and different walks of life. So yeah, it was very daunting, and
yeah.
you had to learn pretty quick what to do because it was pretty serious. Like if you stuff up or you piss someone off, like you cop it, and you cop it pretty hard. Like it's not just one on one; it's two or three on one, and
Yeah.
they don't muck around. So
So you had to learn the etiquette pretty quick.
yeah. I remember watching lots of CI movies, and they would say don't lend anything off anyone unless you can pay for it, and don't stick to yourself. So I kind of just stuck to myself the first few days and just said g'day. And there was a bunch of guys that used to do morning exercise, and I used to join in with them and like become a bit chummy with them. But they used to be from the a bikie gang,
Yeah.
and they kind of took me under my wing and just kind of like gave me a bit of a guide to do what you do and don't do, and
Mm,
so I kind of fitted in, and it wasn't too much of a struggle.
yeah, right. So what
But
was the most impactful thing that you saw in that 6 weeks that you were inside, mate? What was the most impactful thing that you saw happen in there?
well, okay, so I won't say what nationality was, but one night there was a bit of angst between a certain nationality and a certain bikie gang,
Hmm.
and my roommate was part of the nationalities. He wasn't
Hmm.
part of the bikie gang. Anyway, there was a big all and brawl between the two groups, and I remember I was in my cell and I was up on my top bunk, and I was eating dinner and I was watching TV. And next minute, about 10 guys come into the cell, and they were just punching on. And I'm kind of no one knew I was up in the top cell, so I was kind of like I didn't know what to do. So I just kind of laid there, just watching the fight, just eating my tea, didn't say nothing. And the next day, they're going, "Oh, son, that was a good fight." And they're going, "Oh, were you in there?" I said, "Yeah, I was on the top cell, or like on the top bunk, just watching it all." And so I kind of like that was an early awakener. Like they fight for keeps, and
Yeah.
so after that fight, my cellmate came in one night. He had the vacuum head, and he smashed it open, and he got this metal bar out of it. And I said, "What are you going to do with that?" And he goes, "Oh, we're going to shank one of the guys, like shank him in the neck."
Mm,
So he
mm,
spent all night just sharpening this metal bar. And I was trying to talk him out of it. I'm saying, no, if you do that, because he's fairly young, he's only like 19. And
mm,
I said, if you do that, you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. Right? Do you want to, he was already in there for 5 years. So I said, you're going to lose the best part of your life if you do this. And he kind of deferred it. But this went on for about a week where they kept talking about shanking, starting a fight and shanking one of them.
mm,
And it played on my conscience. And I went back to the. I didn't want to dob on him because if I dobbed, I would have been bashed myself. So I went to the gang, the bikie gang. I said, look, he's got a shank, and we need to get rid of it. And they said, I'll leave it with us. And so anyway, so we kept it quiet, and I knew where my roommate had kept the shank. He hid it tucked away in the little hole in the window. And one night he woke up because he was schizophrenic and he was medicated.
Yeah.
And one night he woke up, and I remember recalling him standing over the top of me, just screaming at me, just going nuts at me. And I've kind of woken up, didn't know what was going on. And I said, I abused him back, and I said, fuck off, type thing. And anyway, next minute he's pulled that shank out, and he's kind of had it to me towards like this far away from my neck.
Mm.
And he's going through a psychotic episode, and I couldn't talk to the guards, so I was trapped in there for about 6 hours on my top bunk, pitch dark, and he was on the bottom bunk, and he was just tapping this shank like just. And I was just back against the wall, and oh man, for that 6 hours, I just kept quiet, and he'd make sudden moves, like to say he was getting up to have another go, but that was intense. And I had court that morning for a bail. I got denied bail, and as soon as I got back, I said to the bikie gang that he's going to use it on one of you guys soon. We have to get rid of it because he used it on me last night.
Yeah.
So after I spoke to him, I went back to my room, and my flatmate, my cellmate, sorry, he come back and followed me. I didn't realise at this stage. And next minute, I just heard this screaming and yelling, and three bikies had followed him in, shut the door, and they just went to town on him for about 2 or 3 minutes. And it started off fists, then it was elbows, and then it was knees, and they were all taking in turns at 30-minute bursts, and they were all kickboxers, and just the sickening thud of his head, like his head actually caved in. Like I honestly thought he was going to die.
Mm.
And I actually grabbed onto him after the shock. I grabbed him and said, "You got to stop." And so they kind of stopped. They realised what they were doing. They were like in a trance state, and they
Mm.
realised what they're doing, and they kind of went out. I went out first, and then they followed me. The guy was still conscious. I don't know how, and he
Mm.
kind of called for help, and then the sirens go off, and we have to kind of like disperse and lay on the ground.
Mm.
And I just recall seeing my cellmate being wheeled out on the stretcher and still conscious, but all his head was caved in, and so it was brutal. Like
Mm.
they realised, they realised when I saw, they realised like doesn't matter who you are, what you're going to do. If you don't, it was all about respect, and if there was no rules in there, like it
Mm.
was just a different world. So just respecting other people, it doesn't matter who they are. I kind of learned that a big lesson, that you respect people and they give it back to you,
Mm.
where this guy hadn't. So that was probably the worst thing I'd seen inside.
So
And
you
they had a
really
couple.
were immersed into that life now, Craig. Really, you've gone from just being a fairly standard life to now in jail, watching people getting bashed and potential shankings. And I was going to ask you before how you felt with sleeping in a room with someone with a shank in there, but you explained that.
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
so how long were you in jail for? 6 weeks, or was it a longer period?
No, 6 weeks. Yeah,
6 weeks.
it
Came out
felt
of
like
jail.
months.
Yeah, I bet you did,
Yeah.
mate. Yeah, yeah. And just fear. Was it just really living with fear the whole time you were in there for that 6 week period?
After about the third week, it's weird that you start adjusting it. That's your life. You start forgetting about the outside, the world,
Mm.
and your new world is inside. So you, believe it or not, you start adjusting. Like, you stop thinking about the outside world, and you live in your world. And there's always fights. There was always someone told to leave. Like the guy that was a murderer, he kind of controlled the whole our holding area, which was about 50 guys. So he picked who chose and come. So it was a real hierarchy of, like, you had your own hierarchy in there, and your own little world. So yeah, so after 6 weeks, I was finally allowed out. And to Carmen's credit, she come and visit me every twice a week, and I can't believe that she actually went through all that and did that for me and
Yeah.
stuck
Mm.
by me. It was,
Just interested in that. So after 3 weeks, you started to get institutionalized fairly
yeah,
quickly.
yeah. I was amazed that I started. It just become the norm. It didn't take long at all.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah,
And what an amazing partner. So she, even though all those things had happened before you went in, she still visits you twice a week. So obviously there's a deep connection there with Carmen and you.
Yeah.
And I'm, without, I don't know Carmen at all, but I'm guessing she just wanted you to get better and get through that and get out and try to get some recovery. And so, what happened when you were released, Craig? What was life like then?
I was just so grateful to be out, and funny enough, I was still on leave. Sorry, I was still on leave from work, and so I had to go back to the psych, and before I could go back to work to get the tick off, the all clear.
Did
So
they know all this had happened?
No, no, no. So I kind of really pushed me like there, and
Sorry, Craig, that happened while you were on stress leave, was it?
Yeah. So I kind of
And it really was stress leave.
yeah, pretty much. So ended up getting post-traumatic stress out of that. So yeah, it was a crazy time. It was really yeah.
So you came out. You go back to your psych. He assessed you when you come out. What happened through that assessment? What was the decision after that assessment?
Oh, he said I was fine, and so I guess you get to know when you're out hiding anxiety or your depression, you get to know what to say. So I kind of view saying, "Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to going to work," and I was there for about half an hour. In the back of my mind, I'm going, "Oh God, yeah, if you only knew half of
yes.
what was going on, like yeah, there's no way you'd be sending me back to work."
That is amazing, mate. So 6 weeks in the inside and through full blown drug addiction now, and you could hide it that well that he's now giving you the all clear to go back to work.
Yeah, yep.
It's amazing.
So yeah, we go back to work on a return to work basis, and after about 6 weeks, I returned full time, and I was making a real good go of it. I'd come honest and told him I had an addiction,
Mm-hmm.
and I told him what had happened. Because when you go through that, I just wanted to start making small little changes. So I actually told my boss what had happened, and he was actually grateful that I told him what had happened, and yeah, he kind of nothing changed. He didn't treat me any differently, and yeah. So things were kind of going all right. They were still a little bit rocky. I was still using, and I was still selling. But prison kind of did shake me up a bit, so I could start making little progresses towards recovery in a way.
Explain that to me. What do you mean by that? Because I know I did the same thing before I went into full blown going in to see a guy at a rehab. Explain those little things for me.
For me, it was kind of trying to not stay up all night, to try and get the 8 hours sleep. It was trying to get to work on time. It was trying to enjoy life or trying to enjoy work. Because when you go for addiction, as you know, or depression, you don't like anything. You cannot find pleasure out of anything like football. So I was trying to have that. I was trying to find that in a way, and so I was setting small little goals that trying to find happiness. So it was saying small little 1% changes, but that's how I got the ball rolling.
Yeah, but you're still using every day, Craig?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I was using every day. I returned back to work about. I was there for about 6 months, 7 months. I was going really well. Things were starting to head in the right direction. And then I got a tap in the shoulder, and I was suspended from work with another guy. So basically, during this period when I was before I was going through fitness for duty before they sent me to the psych, I was getting bad panic attacks, and I'd go home. I was going home for about half hour, and I'd go home and I'd just get over my social anxiety. This is during the workday, and I was using the work vehicle. So over about 30 days, over a 6 month period, I went home and misused the vehicle.
Yeah.
And one of the persons that got suspended as well, they had a complaint against them, and she kind of dobbed about 2 or 3% for misusing the vehicle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I was put on suspension, and so I was at home again for I was at home for about 8 months before they made a final decision. So I had to go into.
So still on full pay again. You're back on a work suspension for 8 months. So income and heaps of time on your hands.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So things went bad again, and there was, night walking, just staying up night, and just going back into the same routine.
Mm.
And I was confident that I'd go back to work, but they did an interview with me, and I did said all the correct things. I was honest and open, and yeah. But what was I going to say? During this period, um, things got worse again because I was using so much. I started getting a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
So all my pay, I wasn't putting any in the home loan. I was just gambling it full blown. Any money I received, I was just blowing an addiction. And that was, looking back now, that was a natural high I was getting. And apparently, like, it sets off your neurons and all your connections to feel good. So yeah, but at this stage, I started getting a bad gambling addiction, and things started going backwards again.
So gambling addiction. What type of gambling, mate?
Um, Go to the club. So I go to the local footy club, and they have the pokies, and I finish at 4. So I'd go there every night, and yeah, and you had all your regulars there. And then it got to a point where I was online gambling during the day,
Mm.
and I was just wasting so much money, taking money off the home loan.
Mm.
I just don't want to think now to this day how much money I've lost to
Yeah.
it. So yeah,
So really, that high that you were getting initially from ice, and then we're now into the maintenance program of ice. You've just replaced that natural high that you were getting from that early on with gambling. Now trying to
yeah,
get that rush. Yeah,
yeah,
fairly similar rush, isn't it? At the
yeah,
start, the adrenaline and endorphins and those sort of things. A lot of people disassimilate gambling addiction with drug addiction, but the mindset and the activity is
yeah,
fairly similar. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So I
Yeah.
got to the point where if I'd won 10, 15 grand, I I'd blow it in about 2 hours. Like, money wasn't the actual option about it. It was
No.
just the actual release when you got the free spins or the five
Mm,
aces or whatever.
mm.
So it was just getting the bells and the whistles that set my little excitement off. And it's pretty sad it comes to this point that I have
Yeah,
to do that, especially
yeah. It's
when,
all
like,
that activity going on, eyesight, sound,
yeah,
that feeling sweaty palms of the adrenaline of doing it all, and
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So
So you're now
so
into full blown drug addiction and full blown gambling addiction both together.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, things weren't great, but yeah, I was still suicidal and still hated myself.
Mm.
But yeah,
So was there suicide attempts through this time, Craig?
I had got the no, I had all the product there that I needed.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll tell you what it was. I went to the Collingwood Richmond preliminary final 2018. Um, I remember that day. I had made a date. That day I woke up and I just wanted to end it. And I remembered that the Collingwood Richmond game was on that night. And I thought, this is going to be my last footy, because that footy had been such a big part of my life. I thought I'll watch it, and I expected Collingwood was going to lose, and I was, it was going to end it there. Anyway, Collingwood won, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the grand final. I'd take my young fella, and I'd take my partner. This is going to be my last outing. We go to the final, and then I'm going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
So we went down there. I was still numb, and just going to that game and experiencing it, and Collingwood doing so well. They almost won it. I got a little hot vital twinkle of hope and excitement,
Yeah.
and that was
Right.
kind of and it was like a little wake up call for me. And it wasn't a huge one, but that kind of just set the motion in to make little changes. And thought, well, okay, I enjoyed that, that day, and I enjoyed hanging out with Son and Carmen. So I
Mm.
got a little twinkle again. So that was kind of like a little changing point where the suicide wasn't as intense, and it was just a thought. So yeah, it wasn't where my body was screaming at me to actually go and do it.
Yeah. You'd planned it though, so you'd actually planned what you were going to do, how you were going to do it, and when you were going to do it.
Yeah,
But just that, I guess, that touch of that natural, for want of a better term, again, high for you. That has impacted you just enough to
yeah.
hold on just for that little bit longer.
Yeah, yeah. So the
Yep.
next day we went to the Collingwood club day, and Carmen come with me and my son, and I kind of, like, they enjoyed it, and yeah, so it was just that little family. family thing that gave me the little high that, okay, there is a little, there was a little chance I can change what's happening.
Mm. Yeah. How are you feeling about your rest of your life that's going on? You're not working at the moment.
No.
Carmen's still with you, but is that relationship strained right now, or what's happening with that? Or?
Yeah, it's strained badly, and she's still there by my side, and I start making little progresses
Yeah.
to try and reunite in a better way.
Mm.
But I'm still dealing. I'm still doing all the things I shouldn't be.
Mm.
It got to a point though. I remember it was actually January the 5th. I Things went down, and someone got hurt because someone ripped someone off, money, and that was
This
the
is in one of
day.
your deals, Craig. Sorry, this is a deal that
I,
you're involved with.
yeah. I helped someone get it, and I was like the middleman, and yeah, so it went wrong. And anyway, the guys come around to my house, and they wanted to go and they had a gun. They wanted to go around and shoot someone else. And I don't know if it was a small talk or whatever, but
Mm.
it was just that point where something clicked in me, and I thought I've got to give up. Yeah, something's got to change here.
Mm.
So yeah, that was January the 5th. So yeah,
January 5th, which year?
so that was 2000 and that was 2009, 19. So
Yep.
when I actually went down to OTR, I actually told a fib and said I was 12 months in addiction because I was so fresh out of addiction that I didn't want people to look at me and go, oh, you just come out of this bad addiction that you're going to be unstable and that. So
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't true to myself at that stage, and it was
Mm.
actually I was at basically 6 weeks out of addiction when I went to OTL, to that section where I met you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So let's just step back that 6 weeks, though. So you've decided that night, this guy's got a gun in his hand and he wants to go around and kill someone. You've decided right at that point, I want to change my life from right here. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Um, what what did you do to break the cycle, mate? How did you go about that? Where did you go? Who did you reach out to? I guess.
Okay. I don't know what snapped in my something just snapped in my head where I had enough, and I started thinking about the long term going back to work. So I thought I had a little goal there that I could change going back to work. So for the first 2 weeks, I basically just slept. I'd get up, I'd eat, and I'd sleep. And there's no way I could actually go and see someone, talk to someone. So I had to go and sleep for 2 weeks. I
So
missed a little.
did you? Was that cold turkey, mate? You just stopped.
Yeah, I
So
just stopped
yeah,
cold.
yeah.
Yeah, so I deleted all the numbers in my phone. I got rid of any drugs I had, any ice pipes, smashed them all, and made a concerted effort. Like that was going to quit.
Mm.
That was it.
It's a
Um,
really important thing right there, Craig, and I know we'll get to this a little bit later too about surrounding yourself with the right people, but you made a conscious decision to delete all the people that could actually reintroduce you into that, get rid
yeah,
of all the paraphernalia. That was it. That was the cut. I'm not going back around those people because I know they're not good for me.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's no way I could have done it if I didn't do that.
yeah.
And I made the actual important step of contacting, was it Jake?
Brad?
Brad, and
Yeah,
make the journey down to Melbourne. And I thought, okay, I've got to start surrounding myself with good people and do something good. So that's when I reached out to Bradley and just made that little transition from good to from bad to good.
mm,
And yeah, so I just started making little progresses like that.
yeah.
Um,
Can I
uh,
just,
uh,
sorry, mate, go.
no, you're right. Kick going.
Can I just ask you, and I guess this is for the benefit of the people listening, what was that first part of detox like for you, mate? What was the feelings like? What was going on physically, mentally? What was really happening there for you?
It was hell. I was aching all over. I just in my head I thought, how the hell can I get through a day without using again? I thought there's no way it's going to be impossible. That was going through my head. It was also who am I? Like I
Mm,
didn't know who I was anymore. Like the Craig that I knew has ended up in jail, has selling drugs. In a million years, I would never think. And if you ask anyone pre all this, someone that knew me well, They would never think in a million years I would go down this triple that I had, this journey I had. So I lost my self identity, who I was, and it was pretty damn scary. Like, so that 2 weeks was the journey of trying to recover physically because you're so sore, foggy brain, like I couldn't think clearly, I couldn't concentrate. Even this day, like my concentration, I have to work on, and that's probably a byproduct of the journey. So yeah.
Yeah, rightio.
So
physically ill?
Yeah, just my stomach cramp for about 3 or 4 days. I had stomach cramps where I thought I had to go to the hospital, but I just kind of wrote it out. I was sweating. I'd get up. I was feeling weak. Just a foggy brain where you thought you weren't. Everything was just a foggy mess. You couldn't put two words together. You couldn't start a conversation with someone. And the social anxiety was a killer. Like, you didn't want to see anyone. So I basically held up in 2 weeks and thought and just pushed through it. I thought, I'm going to keep going. It has to get better, surely. It has to get better. And it did. It certainly did.
Really tapping into some, starting to tap into some inner strength there. Try to get through that on your own. So I slept for 2 weeks, and then what was the process after that, mate?
So I had people come to my house, and I had to brush them off, saying, "No, I'm not dealing anymore. I'm not using." And so people wouldn't believe that I'd stopped. They go, "Oh, bullshit," type thing. So it was hard to actually convince people that, hey, I'm changing. Like, this is enough's enough. And so trying to get through that, and then here in Canberra, they've got a place called Directions. It's like a self-help group, and they had a great little where you go and get counselling. And so I went there for the first time, and it's okay. 2 weeks clean of being of an ice addiction, need counselling. So they gave me a bit of counselling, and they have a self-help group called Smart Recovery, and it's basically everyone that's going through addiction or trying to get off addiction. We go there, we talk about our week and what we want to achieve in the week, and we all kind of go there and encourage each other. And that was a godsend. It was good hanging out with people, like-minded people that are trying to reduce their alcohol intake or drug intake or completely quit. And we just went around the circle and encourage each other, and it's very empowering hearing other people
circle
do the
work.
same thing.
Done plenty of circle work. Just interested to just step back there. You said you found the help group called Directions. How did you come across them, mate? Did you start searching for things because you knew you just couldn't do it on your own, or what was the catalyst there?
Yeah, probably I wanted help. Like, I knew I could do it mentally, I believed, but I just needed the right guidance, like the social anxiety and my mental health. So, but when I went to the counselling and Directions for the first time, I talked about my social anxiety. She goes, because it's so fresh, we don't know if it's the actual drug-induced psychosis or it's actually a mental health problem. So they said, we can't tell for another month, and that's when they recommended I go and see a psychiatrist. I'd Google all the NA, the AA, and Directions, and I just looked at the places where I could get help and just called them up, and it was a godsend to actually go and talk to someone.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I wanted to ask that because I think there's a lot of people who don't know where to start. So the starting point is obviously what you had done, and which is I don't want to take anymore. I want to change what's going on in my life. That's the initial stage, and I guess that comes down to a little bit of self-love, that I want to be, I deserve something a little bit more than what I'm actually giving myself at the moment. But then a lot of people don't know where to reach out to, and there's a huge fear for a lot of people to reach out to their family, and sometimes their family wouldn't understand what they're really going through either because they've never been through it. They don't have the tools to be able to handle that either. So it's a really important thing just to jump on Google or ask someone that might be within the industry, where can I go? What can I do? What will work for me? And it was a really good point that you just brought up there too. You looked up NA, AA, Directions and a few other, and you chose which one you thought was going to be for yourself, good for yourself, and went to Directions. So really good point for people out there who are, I guess, in the midst of this, to just jump on and take that step to contact someone, whether it's a complete stranger at another organisation, to that will understand, and they do understand. A lot of them have been through the same thing. They know exactly where you're at, what you're feeling, what stage you're at, what's going on for you. So they don't carry any sort of judgment on you because they've been through it themselves in the most part. So, so you go through directions, mate, and then you're starting to reach out to places like OTLR. So I guess in your mind, you want to start giving back to other people to help them.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking back, just quickly going what you just said was great advice, and also too, don't have to be 2 weeks clean to reach out to people. You can be still using, and that's a great resource for people that you can actually be still using, and you can go to actually in-house rehab where the government pays. So there's great organisations out there. So I started reaching out, and I go to a couple of I went to a psychiatrist, and we spent about half hour talking about what had happened. And after half hour, he goes, "Oh, you got borderline personality disorder." I go, "Oh, well, what the hell's that?" I didn't know what it was. And I looked it up, and it didn't look too good. And I thought, "Oh, okay, if I've got that, I've got to deal with it." So I started going to see. He recommended I go and see a psychologist. So the psychiatrist prescribes drugs. He diagnoses you, and a psychologist, they actually talk to you and go through the, understanding and breaking down your problems and issues.
Yeah.
So I'm going to Smart, the self-help group, the directions. I'm going to a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And after a while, the psychologist says, "No, I don't think you had borderline personality. Fill out a few forms, get a bit more talking." They work out that I had bipolar. And looking back, it made so much sense of my life, all the ups and downs and the destructive behaviour. So now I could actually, I'm still clean. So now I could actually put I guess a label. I didn't want to label it, but an idea that, okay, something's wrong. I can get medication. I can go and talk to someone, and it doesn't have to be a self-destructive behaviour for the rest of my life. And I just started listening to podcasts, and I found a great podcast, Mindset by Design. And you just talk about inner strength and and I started listening to that, and things just slowly turning for me. And
So just taking in information from different sources, and I guess it's about an understanding when you've been diagnosed with that bipolar disorder. There's an understanding of where the behaviour comes from. Then, for me, it was about all the abuse that happened. I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing either. But then I go to an organisation called Real Man actually, and before I went through any sort of rehab, but learning that what I was actually doing was hiding from pain and hurt and shame, but I just didn't understand that. I had no vernacular around that at all. So very similar for you. You've now got an understanding that this makes sense. I've heard that in your voice then when you said, I was diagnosed with bipolar. When we went through the things that were going on, when you went through the things that were going on, you went, this makes sense. This is what's happening for me. And sometimes we just need to unwrap what's going on and why we're using what we're hiding from or what we're trying to delay or push back. And it's a really important point, mate. So you're now listening to podcasts, getting all this information about how to deal with different things that come up in life, and I guess using some of your past to help you drive that. So explain what you're doing now, Craig, because you've got some. We'll talk about the walk you're going to do shortly, but you've got your own Facebook page called Inspired Mindset, and I just want to have a chat to you about what you're doing now and how your life that you've lived and the things that you went through are enabling you or assisting you to be able to do that stuff.
Yeah, sure. So probably about 3 months later, we go back. I go for another interview for my job, and they give me the letter that I've been dismissed. And I kind of broke down, crying, Carmen, and what am I going to do? And Carmen made a point. She goes, "You come this far, you're clean. if you went back there, you weren't going to be happy. And it was true. If I went back there, too much had happened in my life. I think
Mm.
I had to make a fresh break. So I took it on board and started listening to the podcast. And I decided I'd do a drug and alcohol counselling course because I was just wanted to help others. So
Yeah.
I enrolled in a drug and alcohol course. I'm about 3/4 of the way through now. I really enjoy it. Considering that I've never passed anything at school, I've been coming through with like top grades. So I've just been, yeah, I've just been lapping up all the information and growing
Mm.
as a person. I actually the Mindset for Design podcast, Andy Murphy, he's based in England and he actually does mindset for like Liverpool Football Club and he does Hollywood actors. So he does like neuro linguistic programming. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
NLP and
Yep.
hypnosis. So I actually reached out and got him to be a mentor. I spent any money, all the last bit of money I had, and he kind of mentored me and guided me in life. Actually, it wasn't in business, but just in life. And it was the best thing I ever did was to get a mentor.
Mm.
And yeah, he really helped me heaps. And so since that, from about April, I just decided to do that Facebook page, Inspired Mindset, just inspirational quotes and
Mm.
just showing my journey that, hey, you can have dyslexia, you can have bipolar, you can have a bad drug addiction, but you can actually stop and you can
Mm.
have a fulfilling life. And it doesn't have to be a lifelong sentence, but you got to be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
There's no magic cure. There's no, even I have medication for bipolar at night time to help me sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change me as a person. It doesn't make me dull or I can still feel my mania stages. I'm actually able to feel the mania stages when I'm up, when I'm down, but now I can have processes in place to do mindfulness and come back to the present instead of getting racing thoughts and
Mm.
all hyper. So yeah, there's so much help out there, but if you myself and others and you have to be willing to do the work. But yeah, but it can be done, and
Yeah.
it's fun doing the journey. It is actually fun getting a new ID, a new personal ID. So yeah,
It's a really, really good point, Craig. I speak a lot about when I get up and do our public speaking that we're involved with. Um, I talk about the phrase that we're taught a lot as a kid: leopards can't change their spots, and we're almost drummed and pushed down our throat that leopard can't change their spots, a leopard can't change their spots, a leopard can't change their spots. But then someone comes along when you're displaying this type of behaviour or the type of behaviour that we're involved in, they say you just need to change. Well, hang on,
yep,
everything I've just been told my whole life, a leopard can't change their spots. But now you're saying if you want to, you can change.
yep,
What I've learned is anyone can change, and that was a great, fantastic insight into that. You have to be willing. You have to surround yourself with the right people. What I loved about that part that you just said then, Craig, was you spent the last bit of money you had on finding a mentor and paying for a mentor. And I find that a lot that people are willing and without even thinking about it, putting money over the counter to buy cartons of grog, um, supply themselves with ice, gamble, shove money into poker machines or horses or whatever. They won't even think about that. But then, if a mentor costs them 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 bucks, they'll go, "Oh, I'm not sure."
yep,
So
yep,
they'll put all they don't think twice about the destructive behaviour, but really do that view of themselves. Like, am I worth this 10,000 bucks? Is this going to be worth it? And or
yep,
5,000, whatever that cost is. So it was really interesting that you said that because I see so many people who do um, stop spending their financial security on destructive stuff that just won't put it into positive,
yep,
or that reluctance to put it into positive behaviour. So it was fantastic. I love your Facebook page. There's so much stuff that comes on there. You've got all these people from outside that post things. But what I really enjoy about it, Craig, is you've shared your journey along the way. What's going on for you that day. You share things about 10 things that are happening in your personality at one stage around drug addiction recovery, and you're just really open and honest on there. I think it's a fantastic thing for people to be able to jump on and connect. And I know that you talk to anyone that are going through these sort of things if they needed to reach out. So you really have changed your life around. But there was one thing that you brought up a little while ago, this walk that you've planned on doing, and unfortunately COVID-19 has sort of put the
yeah,
brakes on
yeah.
that a little bit. But I just want you to explain to everyone what you're doing when obviously the nature of what we're going through enables you to do it. What you're doing, mate, it's a really amazing thing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so me, Carmen, maybe hopefully you one day when we
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a date set is going to walk from Canberra to Melbourne. We decided over a 30-day period, and it's going to be raising awareness for mental health and people going through addictions, and raising money for Beyond Blue. And so we're going to walk probably about 30 k's a day. It's going to be over 675 kilometres, and hopefully at this stage, we're not sure. We've been talking with the Bulldogs, who might be able to finish the actual at the Colonial Stadium, or the Marvel as it is now.
yeah.
That'd be fantastic. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But just to get out there and hopefully just to raise awareness that you can make changes,
Mm.
and doesn't matter how old you are or what where you've been from. That when you put your mind to it, can actually do great things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I know that on the way, you're planning on walking those 30 k's a day, and then stopping in locations and holding sessions to chat to people about your story and educate some of the people there around drug and alcohol and gambling, or just substance abuse issues. It can be work or food, or doesn't matter what it is, just
Yep.
addiction behaviour. So you're doing that along the way as well.
Yeah.
And then I guess looking for people to donate to Beyond Blue and help you raise some much needed funds for people with mental health.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So Beyond Blue and all the other, like Outside the Locker Room, and all the organisations do a great, fantastic job, and especially with the COVID-19 going through now, people getting cabin fever or locked up at home, people losing their lives, mental health, and all the fantastic job these guys do in helping the community with mental health. They
Mm.
need funds as more than ever, and so that's going to be a great challenge. At this stage, we're looking at March. Hopefully, things will settle down, but just to raise awareness of mental health. And the good thing too is also the walking, how much that helped me getting over the addiction, and the mental health, like doing the exercise. I'm right back into doing that, and I just notice it tenfold how much better I feel.
Yeah,
So yeah, but
definitely.
yeah, definitely the raising the awareness and the money for the charities is number one priority there.
Yeah, yeah, good on you, mate. So I just want to, we'll finish off shortly, but I want to ask you a few questions through this. How is your relationship with Carmen now through this period?
Fantastic. It's look, she had to go through a lot, and she's dealing with a lot of hurt and grief that she's had what I put her through.
Mm,
And but we've come through all this. A lot of people were left, and
yeah.
she still the good in me to stick by me, especially what I've done to her and what I've done to other family members and to
Mm,
my life. And she's still the good to me, and she's stuck by me, and I've made the effort to patch things up, and we've become so much closer. I've been able to express my feelings. She's been able to express how she feels, and yeah, like yeah, we haven't been stronger ever. So it's
mm.
out of a negative, a positive, real positive coming out of what had happened.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I believe in that, mate. Through every scenario, no matter how destructive or devastating they can be, you can find a gem in there somewhere if you look hard enough and put the work in. Um, and you've certainly found that. She is an amazing woman. I've never met her. You've spoken to me about her before, and it's just it's a testament to you too, though, Craig, that you've been able to become honest about what your behaviour was, what you've done, and really we talk about coming clean with addiction and getting clean, but coming clean with all those other thoughts and fears and things that we need to be vulnerable about.
yeah,
And I guess for guys too, they think that vulnerability is about crying and being hugged and all that sort of stuff. It's not just about that. It's just about being
no,
honest
yeah,
and being
yeah,
vulnerable with what's going on for you at the time, what you're actually thinking. So many times we get asked what's going on, and we go, "Oh, nothing." But there's this whole
yeah,
mess of array of feeling going on in our head, and we don't share. And that's the true part of being vulnerable, is being able to say, you know what, I'm just scared about what's around the corner for me at the moment. And I remember doing that with Anne. My relationship with Anne is very similar to yours with Carmen,
yeah,
although Anne wasn't with me through my major addiction. I met her after that, but she really has taught me a lot afterwards.
Yep.
Hey, Craig, I know that you didn't value or didn't have a high standard of values through that period of your life. What do you think your 3 core values are now, mate, and why?
First one is to respect myself and others. Um, just going through what I've been through. Um, yeah, I know that because I didn't respect myself. I didn't deserve goodness. I didn't deserve to have a good life, and I thought the drugs would change all that. They were the actual feeling for me. So not having the respect for others and myself is a big core value. Um, Forgiveness. To get through all this, I've had to forgive myself. I've had to forgive so many other people that have done wrong by me. If I don't, if I hold on to things that had happened and people have done wrong by me, I'd be so bitter and twisted and angry. To
Mm,
actually forgive people, because a lot of people have done wrong by me during this whole period,
mm,
and I accept that. But so forgiveness for myself and others, yeah, and myself too, for all the things that I've gone off the rails. If I didn't forgive myself,
mm.
yeah, I couldn't move on. So it's been a big thing, and to actually a core value is to actually be, I guess, a leader in a way. Um, Not for so much other people, but for me, myself to grow as a person and lead myself through all the difficult times. Like I'm going for a whole journey now that I know nothing about. Like I'm learning as I go, like self-discovery about spirituality. Like
Mm.
I'm just starting to learn about that now, and so just to lead, and I have the core values and the leadership skills for myself, and I guess for the younger ones that may be coming through, watching my story,
Yeah.
that can help others. So
Mm.
that'd be yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting that leadership one. I was listening to the ABC last week, and there was an episode with the Australian cricket coach, and he had this statement. He's got it written on the wall in his house, actually, in text on the wall in his house, and it said, "If we speak of excellence but deliver mediocrity, we're nothing but a common liar." And I went,
yeah,
"Cool, wow, that's pretty full on." But
yeah,
how I took that was, if we talk about leading people and um, giving them education around alcohol and substance abuse issues, but we don't live that, then
yeah,
we're just lying to ourselves. And um, I guess it's just a more cutting way of saying do what we say we're going to do and live the life that we say we're going to live. And it's definitely something um, that you've really committed yourself to, Craig. And I think from where you were, just over a little over 12 months ago to where you are today is a real testament to the commitment and love that you have for yourself. And I think that's really important for people to hear, mate, is because there's so many people out there going through any type of addiction or any type of self-worth issue or just life struggle that just don't feel like that they're worthwhile making those changes
yeah,
and having that self love for themselves and that self forgiveness. I love that. That's a core value of yours. It's really important to be able to forgive others, and there's a lot of repertoire around forgiving other people, but forgiving ourselves for our own transgressions and understanding that that's what's got us to where we are today. And without
yeah,
those things happening, Craig Allen's not Craig Allen today, as much
yeah,
as it would have been great to get where you are and have the understanding that you've got without having to go through all that stuff. I know
yeah,
exactly. I feel the same way, but it's got me to where I am
yeah.
today and sitting here having this conversation with you. So it's a real testament for you, mate.
Thank
Mate,
you.
the last thing I want to finish off with, Craig, is what is your message from you to someone who's, I guess, going through the struggle of addiction and who's wanting to recover but just can't quite get there? What is your message to them, mate? What would you say to someone sitting right in front of you that just can't quite get to that point?
Message is that you got to dig deep. No one's going to help you, but if you make that decision, if you just all you have to do is make a decision, and once you make that decision to change, the rest will follow. It's kind of like you get a bow and arrow, you shoot, before you fire. So you shoot out, and then you can direct where the arrow is going to go along the way. So, but as long as you make that decision to make a change, that's what you need. Because if you think you're going to one day wake up and think, no, I'm not going to be using drugs, you're going to be sadly mistaken. You're going to be caught up in the web of things. So you just need that little spark, and life's going to change dramatically for you. You're going to open up and you're going to experience things that you haven't experienced probably since you had like a little kid. You're going to meet new friends. You're going to have new job, new relationships. Just stuck in that lifestyle now, it's dead end and it goes nowhere but except for pain and misery. And after a while, you're going to end up jail or you're going to be dead. And there's no way. There's people out there that love you. If you love yourself and so you can love others, it's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, good on you, Craig. I'm really looking forward to seeing where life takes you when you finish your course, mate. And I'm sure you're going to do a lot of great things for a lot of people out there. I know that if there's anyone that is struggling and they're not sure who to reach out to, I know that they could go onto Facebook and look up Inspired Mindset. And I know that you would be happy for them to reach out on there and message you on there and have a chat. Like I always say, we can't fix all the problems that they may have, but we can give them the direction to where to go to take that step to do that. And I know that you'd be really willing to help anyone out who's going through that. So make sure we do that. Craig, thanks so much for sharing your life story with us. It's a very, very powerful story.
Pleasure.
I did an interview with someone last week actually, and they said, who do you look up to? And I said, look, you don't have to look too far to find everyday heroes, and you're one of those people, mate, that I look up to. And I mentioned that on that radio program.
Thank you.
How far you've come in such a short amount of time, and your outlook on life now. So, mate, I'm super excited to find where life goes for you. I'm pretty excited to hopefully the planets align and I can do this walk with you. It'll be fantastic to do that. And I'm sure we'll be back in touch with people at that time and maybe get some corporate partnerships to get some really good funding going for Beyond Blue. But mate, thank you so much for joining me on Into Between the Cuddles. We'll keep in contact and we'll see you in the future.
No worries. Thank you very much, homie, and you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Good on you. Thanks Craig.
Bye.
Well done, mate.